Hey everyone, welcome back to another rec therapy session with yours truly, Luke. I hope you guys are doing well. Again, this is recreational therapy. This is not Brain Smart Start. Again, you'll be seeing Miss Stephanie and me doing that. But right now, we're going to be doing some rec therapy, and I thought, what better way to spend this time approaching our Earth Day as, dealing with another part of the earth, Japan, right? Japan is a very cool, very different country. They practice various things that we may not even have heard of before. And so, with that being said, I'm going to go through this little book that we have here, and we're going to learn all about Japan. And so, this ties into recreational therapy because in recreational therapy, we can use being, I guess, educated or learned on different cultures to be able to be therapeutically treated. So essentially, when you look through all of these places and you see what we're going to see in this book, you can receive, I guess, some knowledge from that, and also maybe it can expand your worldview and or make everything easier to understand in a sense. Certain things we might not understand until they're explained in a different context or in a different place. So with that being said, guys, let's go ahead and move on. All right, so welcome to Japan. This country is made up of thousands of islands, right? However, most people live on the four largest islands, which are called Hokkaido, Honshu, Kyushu, and Shikoku. Okay, so these are the four largest islands that everybody tends to live on. Mind you, like they said, there are thousands, so it's not just in those four islands, but people will live, mainly in these four. Okay, so more than 127 million people live in Japan, and this is the city of Kobe, actually, on the island of Honshu. Okay, it's very beautiful, as you can see. Very cool architecture here. And also all these buildings around. You have a ferry boat, and it's very nice, very, very nice scenery. All right, so mountains stretch across much of Japan, and some are even covered in snow. As you can see here, this one is covered in snow. This is Mount Fuji, which is Japan's highest mountain, and it's also a volcano. Didn't know that. It's pretty cool, but also kind of scary if you think about it, right? So we have areas near Japan's coast which are warmer, right? So you have the parts of with snow, like the mountains. Then you have the parts that are on the coast, and you get more of this type of scenery, like what we're used to here in Miami. Uh, so this island is called the island of Okinawa, right? So here, like I said, you have maybe some mountains in the distance, but for the most part, it's nice, sunny, uh, and very green, and a lot of beaches. So yeah, it's very different climate than the other picture, which is pretty interesting, being that it's the same country and also that it's so small. Um, but anyway, let's move on. Okay, so macaque or monkeys, mukak is how you would pronounce it, as or monkeys live in the snowy mountains. To keep warm, they soak in hot springs, right? So if you don't know what hot springs are, guys, it's basically these like pools of water, but they're really hot, and they're kind of like big natural hot tubs. If you've ever been in a hot tub before, you know how it's nice and hot. Well, that is what they like, so they go into those pools. Except those pools are very, very hot usually, so they must have some, extra protection or something. Because if we were to get in those hot springs, we probably would not be, happy. We'd probably be in a lot of pain. But these monkeys are able to do that, so that's what they do in order to keep warm. Especially because where they live, it's always snowing. So they've probably built a tolerance of some sort, right? Um, Tanukis are small raccoon-like animals, right? These things, they're not necessarily raccoons, but they're kind of close. to being a raccoon, but again, they're not. They made their homes in Japan's thick forests, right? So Japan has a ton of thick forests, and they tend to live in there, kind of like our raccoons live like on the beach where there's a lot of woods and a lot of trees and stuff. That's where they tend to live, right? Well, since they're similar, they kind of like the same type of environment, so they like a bunch of trees too, guys. And then they're also a sign of good luck in Japan. So if you ever wanted to give someone a good luck charm, you would give them one of these, which is a little tiny statue of a tanuki, right? And so, like I said, they're a sign of Japan for good luck, and so it's pretty cool, right? All right. People have lived in Japan for thousands of years. Long ago, powerful emperors and shoguns ruled the country. Shoguns were these military leaders that lived way back in the day. They led fierce warriors called samurais in battle. I'm sure you guys have heard of samurais before. The guys with the crazy mask and the big armor and the big sword, right? Like this guy. This guy right here is a samurai, and he's riding a horse, right? A lot of times the generals would ride horses into battle, and with a huge spear, right? Getting ready to scare their enemies, which a lot of times they did. And so that's another reason why they had such crazy looking armor, because they knew it would scare the enemy. Back then, the bigger you looked, the scarier you were, and the bigger and the more powerful they thought you were, right? So shoguns built huge castles. Himeji Castle is one of the oldest, and it dates to 1333. That's the year 1333, about 700 and change years ago. So that's pretty crazy if you think about it. So yeah, the castle's been standing for that long. Pretty insane. All right. So today, most people live in big cities, right? Tokyo is the largest city in Japan. It's also Japan's capital, right? So they made the largest city the capital. People travel from city to city on high-speed trains, and these high-speed trains are called Shinkansen. Shinkansen, right? The trains can go up to 200 miles per hour, right? And that's pretty fast. Think about it. It's like half the speed of a plane. So they go extremely fast. So that's how they get from city to city, and they do this like on a daily basis. So many Japanese families live in traditional homes. So actually, their houses in their culture are very different than ours. A lot of things are very, I guess you can say, symmetrical, and the designs are very simple, but also call back to their ancient ways of living. So here you have a traditional Japanese house, right? You have like the sliding door frames, and I don't know if you've seen before, but a lot of things are on the floor. Like the beds are on the floor and the tables are on the floor. Nothing is necessarily elevated above the floor. Even if it has legs, they're probably like really small. And I don't necessarily know the history behind that or the reasoning for that, but I'm sure it had to do something with like the ancient culture, because most of the time they believed that if you didn't do things a certain way, the gods would punish you, or you would get receive bad luck or an omen or something like that. Something bad would happen to you if you didn't obey these rules, right? So that's probably why they continued to do that for so long. And now they might not believe that anymore. Maybe some people do, but for the most part, it's just tradition. They only do it because it's something that they've been taught to do for their entire lives, and it's what they want to do. So as you can see here, we have the inside part. So we have the shoji, which is the sliding paper screens that I just told you about, right? There are doors that open like this, like kind of like if you have a sliding glass door at your house. You open it like this instead of opening the door regularly, but they're paper screens, right? So they're made out of this very thick paper, and it's like a door, and it just slides like right or left. It's called shoji. And then the mats that cover the floor are not just regular like cement or something like that. It's something called tatami. So those are the mats that cover the floor, right? They do that in order to, I guess, protect the floor, and it's probably softer. Another thing in Japanese culture, and they might go over this later, but is that they take their shoes off before you go into any house. That's like a tradition. Again, I don't know if there's history behind that, but it's something that a lot of them practice. Okay. Japan also has many modern buildings, right? Obviously, like they want to be able to accommodate for those who want a more modern look. So we have buildings that look like this, and it's very, very interesting looking if you think about it. It kind of looks like their own like traditional style, but made modern. So that's also very interesting. It's like they keep the same format, even though they're moving on. Japan is known for its technology nowadays. Asimo is the name of a robot. It can run, climb stairs, and even play soccer. Okay, it can do all these things, and that's him right there. Right? He, like they said, he can run really fast. He's able to climb over things. I've seen videos of him running and then like jumping over this big thing that's like that tall. And then he can also play soccer. And apparently he's pretty good, right? You can see him dribbling the ball there, and it's pretty insane the way that they can build these things, guys. Okay, this robot can speak. So some Japanese robots look and sound just like real people, and this is an example of that. This is not a real person. I know that even though like you're not here with me right now because it might look a little more real through the camera, even here, me in person, this looks real, and this is not a real person, which is insane. So she can talk, she can respond to certain questions. And she responds differently depending on what you say, right? So if you say like, "Do you want ice cream?" she'll say no. But then you say, "Do you know how to write a few words on a computer?" she'll say yes. So she responds differently, right? All right. So the Japanese have many festivals, right? Many, many festivals. I don't know if you've ever seen a movie based in Japan, or like you watched an anime or something like that had to do with Japan. Most of the time, you'll see festivals of some sort going on because they love to celebrate different things. They're very celebratory with their culture, right? And so when the cherry trees bloom in spring, it's time for the Hanami Festival, right? So these big, if you've never seen them before, they're big pink trees, right? The leaves and the flowers on the trees are pink. So it looks very, very, very beautiful. And so when those finally start to grow, they decide, well, let's have some dinner under those trees. And so they go and they have their dinner under their trees. And as you can see, they're doing it right there. It's an annual festival, and people very much enjoy it. And some people go from around the world to go and experience that festival with the people of Japan. So it is very, very popular. The Amon Nebuta is the festival that takes place in summer. It's famous for its giant floats, kind of like our Thanksgiving Day parade where we have those huge floats like going over New York City. Well, here they have these floats, and they kind of do the same thing. As you can see, they have like an army of people pushing this massive float, right? And so whenever this parade comes, they have a ton of floats, a bunch of people push them. It's an incredible time for them. Okay, in Japan, people speak Japanese, right? And so in other Asian cultures, for instance, in China, they have multiple languages. It's not just Chinese. In China, you have Cantonese, and then you have Mandarin, and I'm sure there's other dialects that exist in there, but it's not just one. And here, in this sense, we have just one language, Japanese. And so, this is how you say excuse me in Japanese. Sumimasen, right? Sumimasen. That's how you say excuse me, right? And then this is how you say see you later. Mata ne, right? You would say mata ne, and that is how you say goodbye in Japanese. Okay, so some Japanese words are borrowed from English. For example, the word for backpack in Japanese is actually just bakupaku. Bakupaku is backpack in Japanese. So kind of like how we borrowed words from the French, right? And from like German as well, right? Kindergarten is not an English word technically, but we use it every day or a lot of times in our day or whatever. So just like that, they also have words that they borrowed from our English. So very cool. Okay, so people of all ages read manga. Manga are Japanese comic books. I'm sure you've seen him before. Omar, if you're watching, I know that you've seen him before. I know you love him. And maybe you guys have seen him as well. In fact, there are cafes in Japan that are just for reading manga, right? So some of you guys may know what anime is, which is those like Japanese cartoons that many of you might think are crazy, but they actually start as a comic book. All like 99% of them start as like a comic book. So those comic books are even more famous than the anime itself, and that's what people love to do in Japan, right? So in Japan, more paper is used to print manga than to make toilet paper. So that's again how popular manga is in Japan. Okay. All right, let's go on. Okay, so there's lots of tasty food in Japan, right? The most famous is sushi, obviously, right? Everybody knows sushi from being from Japan. And so it's made with raw fish and with sticky rice. Not to be confused with regular rice, because sticky rice is meant to be clumped together, and you can essentially, put a ton of rice together and create a huge ball if you wanted to, because it'll stick together, right? Sushi is usually eaten with thin brown sauce made from soybeans, which we call soy sauce, right? So as you can see, there's an example of it right there. Some sushi rolls right here, and yeah, food from Japan is delicious. A popular sport in Japan is sumo wrestling. So during a match, two huge men slam their bodies together, right? So what it's trying to say there is that they basically wrestle, right? They wrestle kind of like in our wrestling, except it's a little different because, obviously it looks very, very different, and the rules, I'm sure, are different as well. Yeah, see, the first man to push the other out of the ring wins. In our wrestling, it's the first person to pin down the other person for 10 seconds. But here, they need to push them out of the ring in order to win. So it's pretty different, So Japanese people are also big fans of baseball. Yeah, they love baseball and they tend to play. In fact, I believe there's a pretty famous player who plays in America, if I'm not mistaken, and he's from Japan. So pretty crazy. I don't know too much about baseball, sorry guys, but I'm sure you guys who do like baseball know who he might be, right? All right. So some fun facts, right? We'll go through these fast so we can be done soon, okay guys? So, capital city of Japan is Tokyo. Population of Japan, 127 million, right? Main language, Japanese. The main form of currency is yen, okay? If you don't know what yen is, it's just used in a few Asian countries, right? It's just another type of dollar like we have, but it's a little different. Major religions are Shintoism and Buddhism, all right? I don't have time to explain both of those right now because there's a lot that goes into them, but there are two different religions that are in Japan, okay? Nearby countries include China, North Korea, South Korea, and Russia. Okay, all of those are right next door to Japan. And one cool fact, there are more than 5.5 million vending machines in Japan. You can get drinks, books, and even eyeglasses from them. So these vending machines sell like anything. Like you can buy whatever you want. And it's pretty crazy, right? So, like we said, we went through the capital. We discussed the emperors or the shogun, right? The hot springs that the monkeys that live in the mountains love to bathe in. The technology, right, that they're known for, won over the robots. And then we talked about how the Mount Fuji is also a giant volcano, okay? And so, we've basically gone over everything, okay, guys? So with that being said, I will be giving you guys a little assignment to do at home, okay? So if you have a printer or if you just want to look at the page on the computer, it's okay. But I'm going to be sending you guys something, and it's something pretty simple, okay? And you guys will be able to do it at home. All right, guys? So you guys have a great day, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye, everyone.